Welcome to the Life of Being podcast, where we talk about all things life from a healthcare perspective all around the world. I'm your host, Kelly Tan, and in each episode, we'll explore stories, science, and wisdom to help you live well, think deeper, and express life fully. Let's begin. Today, we're excited to have Sophie Rumbelow from London, UK. Sophie is a chiropractor, graduated from WEOC in 2013, and have practiced in 5 different practices in the UK before opening up her own practice in 2017. Sophie mostly practiced upper cervical chiropractic. She traveled to Spain and America to learn this technique in 2015 to 2016. She is a proud mother to 2 beautiful boys and loves that chiropractic allows her such flexibility in the work and home life. Sophie changed practice after giving birth to her first son, Leo, and now work 2 days a week in Hampstead. And outside of her working hours, she loves being at home, raising her children, and being a wonderful, supreme mom. So, Dr. Sophie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. That was a very nice introduction.
Yeah, it's by you yourself, and I think that's the reason why I wanted to reach out to know, first of all, how did you get into upper cervical coming from WEOC,
Mhm.
because I came from WEOC also,
Yeah.
and how has things transformed all the way until where you're finding your balance now between home and work? So do you want
Yeah.
to tell us, start by telling me a story in terms of chiropractic and your transition there?
Yeah. I think I was quite lucky that I knew I wanted to be a chiropractor from a really young age.
Hmm.
So I was like about 11 years old that I kind of made that decision because we were told in school, like, you need to know what you want to do and where to go for your, careers week and
Yes.
things. But basically, I grew up where my parents saw chiropractors quite regularly.
Hmm.
My dad was a gas engineer and he was always hurting his back carrying heavy boilers and things and used to swear by this chiropractor he used to see, and I used to go and watch as a young child, and he was quite like a charismatic, inspiring sort of character, and he really loved his job. So I think as a young child you see that as quite inspiring rather than working just 9 to 5 just to get the job done. So I had a clear vision, I guess, that that's what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go with my career. And I kind of toyed with a few other things, but it never really trumped chiropractic. So I got to WEOC and then I graduated in 2013. And then I knew I always wanted to have my own practice because my parents are self-employed, my sister's self-employed. It was kind of quite common,
Hmm.
ground to be having your own business, but I knew I wanted a lot of experience first
Hmm.
and to really get a clear understanding of what I wanted and how I was going to run it and how my business was going to help people and the sort of whole journey right from the beginning. So, yeah, like you said in your introduction, I worked in quite a few different practices, very different styles. My very first one was a locum covering a girl who had needed a shoulder injury. So that was kind of threw me in at the deep end because it was quite busy practice and seeing a lot of people. And then I went and worked with Wayne Whittingham in Plymouth Chiropractic, and he actually taught toggle at RMIT, and he had big open plan, busy practice,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
mostly doing toggle. So that was really cool because we weren't, when I thought I knew what toggle was and I showed Wayne, he was like, that's not what toggle is. So he taught me how to do a good toggle, and I learned a lot from him. And then I kind of went to different practices when I moved to London and did more full spine work and more diversified sort of technique, really.
Hmm.
But I always felt like I was grappling with these questions of how do I really know that is where someone needs to be adjusted? And how do I know when is the right time? And if, say, for example, you adjusted someone yesterday and then I saw them the next day and then I thought they needed to be adjusted, did that adjustment only last for 24 hours? And I didn't really feel like the way I was practicing, A, it answered those questions, and B, felt really kind of congruent because I felt like I was grappling with that a lot. So me and my best friend Sophie Anderson, who's also an upper cervical chiropractor in Barcelona, we kind of went on this journey many years ago of trying to
Yeah.
find out those answers. And the book that kind of really answered a lot of that for me was one of the green books, which is volume 18. And when I read it, I was like, oh, okay, these are some of the answers I've been looking for. And that's kind of what really started the spark and started kind of pushing me in that direction. And then when I went to do the seminars abroad and things like that, and when I did all of that, I then felt that I couldn't keep working in the model that I was, because I really wanted to just do upper cervical. And I think if you want to do it, you kind of have to do it properly and not just doing it half-assed. Well, you can if you wanted to, but I didn't feel like that was going to be right for me. So that's when I opened my practice in 2017.
It sounds like when you're graduate from New York, like most people that get confused, they get identity crisis, they don't know what they're doing. It sounds like
Yeah.
you're just exploring around and then like you come into all this question that led you to the book and led you to upper cervical. Is there a reason why you chose knee chest instead of like Nuka or Blair or anything?
I think that, yeah, because you have like Nuka, Blair, Atlas orthogonal, knee chest, toggle. I've already forgotten a few others. But I think it's really difficult to learn the technique to start with. We don't obviously get taught that in our UK chiropractic schools. It's
Yes.
more common in America. And you really need to be sort of guided by someone, and you can't just go learn it in just like one seminar, which is
Yeah.
really frustrating. Because when I first did it, I was like, oh my God, I'm like right at the beginning when I thought I was going to get everything I needed to know in one weekend. Absolutely not right. And the time when I finished volume 18 and I was really kind of searching, there was a group of chiropractors who were coming to Spain in like a month's time, and they were going to be
Mm.
teaching me chest. So I started off that just purely through, I guess, the kind of divine timing that they were going to be there. And I really got so much from their teachings. But I think as much as I have loved all of the aspects of learning the upper cervical, I do gravitate and feel more comfortable with toggle. I prefer being adjusted in that
Mm.
way. I think it suits more people. Knee chest is a really strong adjustment, and I have a small percentage of people who that is the only thing that will change their neurology, and we've tried different ways, but it's the
Mm.
knee chest is really what helps them, and that's absolutely fine. But I'd say 80% of, if not higher now, is toggle, and that's my
Mm.
preference personally,
Okay.
from just how I like to practice, how I receive it, and things like that, really.
How would you explain toggle?
There's no sort of rotational aspects in the knee chest. For some people, they can't even get into the right
Yeah.
position because you
Yes.
have to really turn like a 90-degree angle.
Mm.
And that's hard, especially on like more elderly people, or if you're in pain and you're restricted in your range of motion anyway, it's
Mm.
difficult to get into that position. So I like that it's just easy. It feels easier, it's more comfortable, it's easier on like the difficult clients getting into those positions. More hypermobile people, I think, are better adjusted in toggle. Some people would disagree with me in that, but I think it's more of a gentle approach. So yeah, you're lying completely on your side. Your head is the only thing touching the headrest.
Mm.
And it's not really a really forceful adjustment. It's the speed that you can deliver the adjustment that changes the brain and the neurology and what really affects someone's body through the adjustment. And I think it's just more comfortable.
If someone wants to do toggle, want to understand deeper, where would you point to them?
It's a really tricky question. I don't even know anyone that's teaching it, but I think learning from someone who practices it really well, and even if you worked for them or you shadowed them or you asked them to mentor you, like I was taught by a group of chiropractors, but I asked Dr. Peter Amalinga to mentor me because
Mm.
he has an amazing practice in Canada. We trained with like the really old school greats. He's been in practice longer than I've been alive. He knows what he's talking about. And I love that he's not really black and white and dogmatic with things. He's
Mm.
obviously been round the block. He's done it a long time. He's seen so many people. And he really helped me and mentored me in that sense of kind of trusting your intuition and your gut and incorporating some cranial work as well. And it doesn't, some upper cervical chiropractic teaching is like, this is the formula and this is the only way you follow the steps, and it's really black and white. But when you've been
Mm.
doing it in practice for quite some time, you realize that doesn't actually really work all the time. And he really helped me kind of be okay with letting that go and trusting my clinical experience. And he was amazing for that. So I think, yeah, just finding someone who is doing it well, they can mentor you.
Some people will say that it's not just black and white, but some people will say that, oh, it needs to be objective. Because if I check this person, he needs to get adjusted, but someone else checks this person, doesn't need to get adjusted. So where is that fine line between this
Yeah.
both gray areas?
I think there is steps to the formula. So
Mm.
I have my checking system. I use a lot the titron thermography nervous system scan, but that isn't just one aspect of the checking
Yes,
system. You know,
yes.
there's lots of other things that need to line up. But ultimately, even if everything's lining up, but there's still that really strong gut instinct that actually no, that person needs to be left alone today and they don't need
Mm.
another force or an input and their body is potentially in a still state of healing, because even though we're scanning them, say, and you're doing your tracking system, it's only in that moment. Like BJ, when he had his research clinic, people were there for like days and, you know, being checked hour after hour after hour. Well, that's not realistic. You're never going to have a client who's going to be able to do that. And like, we don't want to practice in that
Stay
way.
around,
People
yeah.
don't want to be cared for in that way. So you still need to make a decision in that moment. But I do think that the gut intuition and your instinct should always override the, you know, what the technology says or what your, you know, things are. If you've got that feeling that their body's still in a state of change, they're adapting and they're potentially still healing and they need to be left alone, that's always going to be a better decision, I think, than just assuming that they just need to be adjusted and overdoing it and overstimulating the nervous system or putting too much inputs in that the brain just doesn't know what to do with.
How would you explain upper cervical to people?
Um,
Do you?
so as if it's a layman's
In
terms.
yeah, in layman's terms.
So I
Yeah.
say that the two bones at the top of your neck are quite unique, and I usually always use a model. And I
Mm.
say that they're not secured by a joint above and below, like all the other parts of the spine are. They're kind of secured by soft tissue ligaments and tendons. So they're quite vulnerable to not sitting in the right position, but they are act like these essential floodgates, really, from our communication from our brain to our body. And it's quite obvious to see that when you see it on like the anatomy, nervous system charts, and you can see it on the spine, how close that C1 and C2 vertebra are to the cranial vault and the brain. And I say that we know that 80% of the neurological interference we have in our body will exist around C1 and C2, and the position of them is so essential for our brain to body communication. And upper cervical chiropractic takes a very conservative, specific approach to making sure that those vertebrae are moving correctly and that your nervous system is as clear and connected as it possibly can be within that movement.
I'm assuming with toggle, it's just upper cervical, or do you do full spine also? Because I know you tend to do pregnancy and pediatric
Yes,
movement.
I was trained in Webster before I did upper cervical, and I still do a bit of Thompson as well. So I'm not purely, most of the people that are coming to me, I'm only adjusting C1, C2, but I'm always checking their full spine because
Mm.
it's so fun to see when we haven't touched other areas how that's changing. And they
Mm.
can feel it as well. And they get that feedback with like, oh, feel how this has changed once the top of your spine has changed. And I
Mm.
do cranial work as well. I do a lot of TMJ work.
Mm.
So my main focus is, yeah, upper cervical, but I still will have a holistic approach of the body.
What is one advice you would give to younger Sophie starting New York or even graduating? What's one advice you would give to her?
That's a really good question. I think I would say to worry less because I'm a terrible chronic worrier. And I think so many times the things we
Oh.
worry about never happen. So I think, and also when I see like my younger self when I just graduated and I didn't have children, I didn't have my practice, I was, you know, young, free, and single. And I should have just been enjoying the lack of responsibilities more and just not taking things so seriously. But I think I am, you know, serious about the standard of care that I offer, and I really care about people, and I really care about the results, and I really care about people's experiences. So I'm naturally always going to be an overthinker and a bit of a worrier in that sense. But I think I probably would have just said just to lighten up a bit.
How are you doing it nowadays then?
Better. It's still obviously a juggle with having my kids and having the practice, and it changed a lot after I had my son Leo.
Mm,
And it was really interesting because I think you know what you want, and I was so clear for so long of what I wanted,
yeah.
and you know how it was going to look and feel, and it had to be this way and this. It was like I had it crystal clear, and I remember having a week before Christmas a few years after we opened, and I'd kind of reached that goal of what I was trying to achieve. And I got there and I was like, this is absolutely not what I want. It was so stressful and it was awful. And I was like, well, whose dream was that? And who wanted that? Because it wasn't me when I got there.
Oh.
And I think then COVID came and we had to obviously step away from practice. And I had to move my practice while it was COVID and I was having a baby. And it was really, really intense time. And then when I went back to work after Leo, I was in a different location, which was
Mm,
actually suited me better. And I changed a lot of my practice really. And I used that intuition, that gut feeling so much more than doing what I felt like I should be doing and doing what I felt that was the right thing to do because X, Y, and Z told me so. I felt like when, yeah, after having my son and giving birth and having that time away and changing a few things really changed my perspective on things.
how would someone increases their usage of the gut feeling, or how do they know like this is what their gut is saying, what the intuition is
I
saying?
think it's a bit of trial and error. And I think it's comes stronger in time when you've had lots of experiences where you've used it, then you've reinforced that it was the right thing to do. So then you get more of that trust in yourself.
Mm,
Call it like the trust muscle, don't they? That you keep using it and you're using it and you're practicing and practicing it more. And I think sometimes you have to try and switch off the analytical part of your brain of overthinking and questioning like, but is that it? And I think it will come quite clear and strong when you're quiet and you're really kind of tuning in and you can't ignore it sometimes. And I think the
mm,
more you do it and the more you don't ignore it, the more it will serve you, not just in practice, but in so many
mm.
parts of life, you know.
What is it that you're doing to take care of yourself then?
Not very much,
That's
not very well.
enough.
I wish I had more time, but I love going to Pilates. That is my kind of thing. I do reformer Pilates. That's the way I exercise. I'm not a very exercise enthusiastic person. I'll just do the bare minimum. Do like reformer. I've been doing the infrared sauna at the Pilates studio as well, which feels like heaven in the winter because it's so cold.
Mm,
That feels really good. It's really good for your detoxification. So that's been good.
mm,
And I've recently been reading a book, and I can't remember the top of my head what the title is called. I think it's How the Brain Rests or something like that. I recently
mm.
picked it up. I can link it to you.
Yes.
But basically, it's showing how more like healthier, effective for our body is when our brain is not doing anything. Because they used to think that the brain was mostly active when we were like thinking about cooking or writing or
Mm,
reading, responding to emails or something like that. But actually, it's so much more lit up on these brain scans when we're actually not doing anything and you're just staring out the window. And it's so much more better for your creativity, your thought processes, processing emotions and thoughts and feelings through the day, like maybe tapping into that gut intuition. So I've really, really been trying this year that when I'm not really needing to do anything and I don't need to be overly checking my phone or whatever, that I'm just allowing my brain just to be because we're always doing stuff
mm.
and I'm really good at multitasking and juggling and I'm like, do I
Like a mom.
actually need to be doing that? And is it's actually okay just to sit and just be? So I think I've been trying to do that for myself and it does feel like it's good for me and it's like a gift.
Mm.
So I'm practicing more.
It's human being, not human doing, hey?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Who is your inspiration?
That was a really tricky question, and you sent that to me beforehand. I think I have a few, and I think some of them are chiropractors and some of them are not. But I would say, from a chiropractic standpoint of view, I feel my inspirations are. So my mentor, Peter. When I was young, I found a chiropractor close by to my family home called Neil Finnemore, and I used to go and observe him like once a week when I was like a teenager. And he is just the most amazing man. He is a wonderful chiropractor. He has a wealth of knowledge. Even when sometimes I think I know how he's going to approach something, he still always surprises me. He is, yeah, amazing, amazing, amazing chiropractor. And also I had a mentor more in a life coaching sort of sense since I was about 23 called Gail, and she taught me a lot of metaphysics and how our life is created by our thoughts, and that's what kind of shapes our reality, and our life is a grand organized design. And she's taught me so many things about life and how we think about things and how we create things and how we bring things into our lives to teach us lessons. And when I've gone through really hard times, she's really been a great anchor of wisdom. So yeah, they're kind of my top ones that kind of came to mind when you asked me.
What is one life-changing conversation that changed the trajectory of your life or any mindset shift over the recent years for you?
Yeah, I think going back to Gail, really, and so many times when you think you can sometimes, when life can be difficult and be challenging, and I felt I could easily go to that victim mindset, like, why is this happening to me? And what have I done to deserve this sort of thing? But she really had taught me to think about, like, what are these lessons here to teach me? And how am I going to grow from these lessons? And how have I maybe attracted in these lessons to teach me to grow and think about things differently, and being grateful for those experiences. And I read a book years ago by Martini, The Breakthrough Experience, and it's kind of like old school sort of self-help
Mm-hmm.
book maybe, and he kind of talks about those sorts of similar things and how everything's always in a duality and in a balance in your life, and I find that sort of way of thinking really helpful. And I think as chiropractors, we're naturally sort of inclined to think about how we can be better at life ourselves, being a human, so that we can serve people better and a higher vibration, however you want to think about it. So I'm quite inclined to just always thinking of how I can improve myself and the way I show up.
Mm.
So yeah, I think, yeah, she really helped me with that.
How old is Leo?
Oh, Leo's 5, and my youngest Jasper is 2.
Okay, so both of them are having a nap right now, or just
Leo's at school,
okay.
and Jasper is thankfully still asleep.
What is one advice or one teaching you like to pass on to them when they grow up?
Oh my goodness me, that is a hard one. I think just really following what they feel is authentically right for themselves. Because I think we do so much unlearning as an adult of, like I said, thinking I had my dream set up and getting to that goal and being like, oh my gosh, this is not what I wanted. And like, where did I pick those thoughts and ideas up from over time? But I would just love for them to sort of follow the breadcrumbs in life and figure out what they want to do, and that is completely authentically right for them and not a projection of what I think is best for them, my husband thinks is best for them, the school teacher, society. It would just be amazing if they could, yeah, go through life knowing what, like, their gut and their intuition and what they feel is authentically right for them versus a
Mhm.
zillion other opinions.
What a success means to you then.
I think it can just show up in so many different ways. But I think if someone feels content and feels joy and feels happy and feels they can go to bed at night and think that they did a good job and they helped people, I think that's pretty successful in whatever dynamic you are doing that in.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
What is it that you have unlearned over the recent years?
Oh my God. These are big questions, Kelly. What have I unlearned? I think I've really tried to work on my relationship with perfection. So I think that comes probably maybe more being female, being like the good girl, being told, this is how you should be, and this is what it is like to be a perfect good girl, and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've been very attached to things being a certain way and being perfect, and feeling everything's okay as long as it's exactly how I think it should be in my mind and stuff, and just trying to be more relaxed about that and not being so attached to the perfectionism. I am absolutely no way recovered and good at, I'm still grappling with it, but I'm trying.
I mean, it's a progress, isn't it? It does sound
Yeah.
like the recurring theme is initially you're probably like really fixated to a certain thinking, but then I think over time you're being like, oh, actually focusing on intuition, gut feeling. Maybe
Yeah.
you think what is right for you is not what life thinks is right for you. So I think in the
Yeah.
end, this is where you are now with your work-life balance-ish. Although mom is like 24/7 full on, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I
Yeah.
think is this a lifestyle that you're feeling like at the moment this is where you are that's right for you?
Yeah, yeah, I would
Yeah.
say so. And I think confidence and certainty in like who you are and what you're doing and what you're offering and things, I think that comes more in time. And I
Mm.
definitely feel like as I'm getting older, that is coming and feels like, this is actually me, rather than this version of that was,
So,
created over time from God knows how many inputs.
yeah.
So I think, yeah, as you get older, it gets clearer.
Is there any message you would say from coming from someone who is upper cervical to someone who doesn't practice specificity or doesn't do any check, doesn't even ask the question that you've been pondering upon, where you've been asking like, how do you know where to adjust? How do you know if that's the right time? So,
Mm.
like, is there anything that you like to leave listeners that they can ponder upon?
Um, well, I don't ever want to make someone feel that what they're doing isn't right or isn't
Mm,
good enough. Because if you're
yeah,
happy with what you're doing, people are getting well, you feel like you're offering a good service, is good enough. People need
yes.
chiropractic, and you don't want to create thoughts that someone's really unsure of what they're doing. But I think you can always improve what you are doing. So whatever technique you're deciding to like go down, or the
Mm,
route or the service that you want to offer, I think there's no harm in always trying to improve that and asking yourself, could I be doing anything better? Could the service be a better experience? Could my skills be any better? And who can I learn that from? And finding those people who do what you want to, achieve with your clients or your business or your practice, whatever, and just observing them or spending time with other people, and you will be uplifted, and you will kind of, it's like an osmosis effect, isn't it, when you're around that sort of energy in those people. So I don't necessarily think that what I do is better than someone who is doing full spine or whatever.
mm,
I think it's just as long as you are always kind of continually progressing and asking yourself those tricky questions and asking colleagues and, flicking them back and forth and stuff. It's so valuable to have those conversations and
mm.
listening to podcasts and things like that.
At the moment, what is it that you are learning that or studying at the moment? What are you up
I
to?
recently just went to a really good TMJ seminar at the weekend on Saturday, which was really, really good because it is such a close link with upper cervical. And I've done intraoral sort of TMJ work before, but not really ever done a really specific seminar. The tutor that taught us, he actually taught technique at Palmer, and he taught all over the world, and he's like 75 and had so much zest for life and enthusiasm, and it was really inspiring to be taught by him.
Mm,
And I also loved that the things that he did teach you could just learn and use straight away, like
mm.
next week, rather than feeling like I did before right at the beginning. So yeah, I'm kind of working through that at the moment, which has been really, really interesting and a bit of inspiration.
Anything you're reading at the moment, or
That brain book, which I'm still annoyed that I can't remember the
that's
name of, which
okay. That's
Ironic.
kind of fair.
But yeah, that's a good one.
Do you read like Kindle or like a physical book?
No, I can't do Kindle. I'm
Oh,
a
it's always
paper gal.
physical, isn't it? Yeah. I'm aware of the timing. We're coming towards the end, and I'm super, super grateful for this conversation. I know we've been back and forth, and I'm so happy to be delving into your story, although we're just scratching the surface. Where is the best place that we can find you then, Sophie?
I'm not too great on Instagram or social media. Shock horror.
Oh,
But
sounds like
my
me.
website is Atlas Chiropractic Hampstead, and my email's there. So if anyone had any other questions, whatever, I'm best
Yes.
contacted on email.
Perfect. And I'll leave your link below and then the book you can send me after.
Yeah,
I'll
I will
leave it in
send
the
that.
description below.
Yeah.
And before we wrap things up over here, what is one advice, one thing that you would like to leave the listeners to before we end this podcast?
I just think just to keep always thinking of self-improving because I think the better person you are and the better that will infiltrate how the better chiropractor you are and the better service that you can offer clients. So I just think just to continually self-improving, self-evolving, trying not to be stagnant, even though we go through those seasons, which is absolutely fine.
Mm.
That's part of like, the season of life, but just always being curious and open-minded and looking for further ways to improve ourselves, I think is really important.
That's a really great way to wrap up the podcast here. And we'll leave the description, all the information below, and hopefully we'll be speaking really soon again in the future.
Great. Thanks so much, Kelly.
All the best and take care. Thank you for tuning in to the Life of Being podcast. Let us know what is your one key takeaway from this episode. And if this conversation inspired you, share it with a friend who might find it helpful today. Until next time, take care of your health and take care of your being.